Come on. Come on.
Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Face in your face.
What the hell is going on down there?
Face in your face.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Latina Diaspora. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with this channel or are watching this channel for the first time, what we do is we discuss issues pertaining to Latinos in the United States. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, the subscriber mode has been enabled, meaning if you are not a subscriber and if you want to enter a comment in the chat, you will need to subscribe to the channel. I also have my main channel, which is Uncommon Sense with Hossein Negron, where I discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses logic. Um, First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to those who have already subscribed to the channel. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, as well as those who allow me to enter into your devices and watch from the clouds, even the haters. So, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and set the bell notification to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So, as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic for today is Are massive deportations needed? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my thoughts about the situation. I mean, I have similar discussions on my main channel, but being that deportations are going to affect the Latino community in many ways, I decided to discuss it as well here. Now, before we get into the main topic, we're gonna have another episode up in my words. Well, first of all, before I forget, I meant to say Happy Black History Month to all the members of the African American community. This is a month where we celebrate and acknowledge the achievement that the Black community has able to obtain, considering all the obstacles that they have to endure as a community. First of all, for about 250 years, um, they were in, victims of chattel slavery. They have had their identity removed, their culture removed, everything that made them individually unique was removed and forced to take on a different culture completely foreign to theirs. Not to mention the fact that they had to work under horrible conditions. The punishments were severe for non-compliance. Unfortunately, families has been divided and destroyed. The women, unfortunately, have been raped, and for other individuals, the women became nothing but sex slaves, forced to engage in sexual activities with their masters. So, after following 250 years of slavery, there was a brief period called Reconstructive where they tried to uh, resolve the wrongs that were committed against this community. Unfortunately, that ended in 1877 with the beginning of segregation and the Jim Crow laws, forcing them to drink from certain water, separate fountains, forcing them to sit in the back of the bus, forcing them to use facilities which was inferior. Okay, not to mention that they were treated as second-class citizens. So then, of course, came the civil rights movement in the 1950s and the 1960s. While a great deal has been done to try to resolve a lot of the harm that was done to the black community, there's still a lot of issues that persist. Okay. One of the main issues is, of course, the fact that unfortunately a lot of the women have become single mothers. Now, we can discuss until doomsday the reason why. Um, and that I'll say for another topic. Okay. But unfortunately, among women getting married, they're the least likely to get married. Some of it is because of their own undoing. Others because they accepted the misconceptions regarding black women. First of all, let me just state that not all black women are single moms, and things of that nature. You do have black women not only surviving but striving as well, being involved in successful marriages and healthy relationships and things of that nature. Unfortunately, there's a perception, and to a certain extent unwarranted, that black women are misogynistic. They they talk about they don't need men and things of that nature. And what is assuring that we do see some black women are trying um, to correct the image that's been created. A lot still has to be done. Okay. And the thing is, um, appearances can be deceiving. So one thing I always maintain from day one, there is good and there's bad in every community. Okay. There are people who are outrageous and do wonderful things in each community, and there are people that do wretched things. Okay. Unfortunately, it's the behavior of the wretched people that everyone's focused on. No one focuses on the fact that members of the black community has done amazing things, and they've done I mean, you have not just the athletes, but also you have politicians, statesmen, those in the field of medicine, which is why Black History Month is so important, so that not just the African American community be aware of their achievements, but other communities as well. And one thing I will admire regarding the Black community is the ability to persevere um, regarding several trials and tribulations. Okay, so that's something to be admired, and especially considering all that they went through. Now, I'm not in any way condoning the misdeeds of certain members of the community, but also simply acknowledging the fact that there's good and there's bad in every community. So, and of course, tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow is the Super Bowl. Many of us will watch it at home. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'm kind of hoping that the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl. Okay. But I have a feeling it's going to be Kansas City. And if that's the case, it'll be the first time that any professional football team are successful in repeating a world title. So I think it's gonna be an interesting game. Now, with that being said, we're gonna get into the main topic. Now, before I continue, let me tell you for the record that the link to the panel has been pinned. So if anyone wishes to hit that link and opine regarding the topic, they can do so. Now, let me make this perfectly clear. And the same rules apply not just here, but to my main channel. If I've never seen you before, if I never heard from you before, I will insist that you come up in the backstage to make sure that no one flashes anything inappropriate, which will cause the people of YouTube to take down the stream. Now, as regards to the topic in hand, let's just get some facts into this situation. Situation, this crisis with the undocumented has been going on for decades. Well, there have been deportations that was done um, under the Obama administration, the Biden administration to a certain extent, and of course some under the first Trump administration. Other than that, there really has not been anything to seriously address the issues with the undocumented. First of all, we do not know how many of them are here. Okay, so according to some estimates, as many as 11 million people are here undocumented. Some say it's 12, others say it's high as 50 million. Truthfully, we do not know. Truthfully, we do not know. And of course, there are many ways that you could become undocumented. Some of it, you could have entered the country legally as a, whether it be as a visa to visit or a work visa or a study visa. And then there are those who um, overstay their time, making them undocumented. And then you have those who sneak into the country, many of them through Mexico, okay, who enter the country illegally. Plus, you have people who got in by rafts or other type of floating things enter into the states to enter illegally. Now, let me make this perfectly clear, and this is something that people don't understand. When you enter the country illegally, you have broken the law. Okay? And again, this is an example that I spoke about, and I'm going to continue to use it. I have visited 5 countries in my lifetime where I needed a passport. I visited Canada, Mexico, Panama, Colombia, and the Dominican Republic. Each of those countries I visited, okay, I had a passport which was valid. Some of these countries required a visa, which I had. After landing and after presenting my credentials, the immigration authorities of each country asked me pertinent questions. Questions like, why am I here? How long will I be here? Where will I be staying in the country? When will I return to my country? After answering all the pertinent questions that the immigration authorities presented me, I was allowed entry into their country. Okay. And I, of course, observe all the rules and regulations of each country that I was visiting. So you see, I did not enter any countries illegally. I entered those countries through the legal process. That is not the situation here. Okay. You have people who enter the country illegally. Plus, you have countless hundreds of thousands of people who enter this country uh, as refugees, migrants, or freedom seeking, whatever term they want to use them today. And those protections were granted under the Biden administration. So what Donald Trump is doing is rescinding a lot of the stuff that Biden did, which means that by doing that, being deprived with protected status, making these people undocumented. Okay. Now, where I take issue is the following. You've been residing in the United States for 5, 10, or 15 years or whatever length of time. You enter the country illegally. Now, there are several organizations that are in existence to assist those who enter the country illegally. In many of the big cities, you have organizations of Catholic charities. You also have nonprofit organizations which provide free legal representation to the undocumented when it comes to um, issues in immigration court. You have various churches that to provide all sorts of human services, not just churches, but other places of worship as well. Now, the issue I have, excuse me, the issue I have is the following: you knowing that you entered the country illegally, and you did not do anything to try to legalize your status, whether it be utilizing these services. Now, some of them actually go ahead and try to marry an American, so therefore they get to stay in the country. Okay. Now, Denise, at one of her streams, Denise Gonzalez, one of her streams actually suggested the following: they could have seduced an American in order for them to stay here. Wow, I'm not crazy about the idea, but at least, even if they did that, they are trying to do something to try to legalize their status. And this is and another thing that bothers me as well. You have parents who sent their children unescorted thousands of miles to enter the United States. Why? I don't know. And this is the thing, when you are sending your child unescorted to a foreign country, there is a great deal of dangers that you're exposing the child with. First of all, the child could be kidnapped, the child could be exploited, uh, the child can be trafficked, okay, and be forced into prostitution. Not to mention the child could be killed. Okay. And just as bad is that you have people who enter this country illegally and they bring their children with them. Okay. Particularly when they bring in infants into the United States. And then what happens is if these people get deported, the children suffer because they have to go back to a country where they know very little about because the only life they've known is life in the United States. And to me, the real victims are the children, okay? Because they have little voice as far as where they want to go, especially if, okay, you have to excuse me, it's just that there's a child in the background screaming for whatever reason. Maybe didn't like hearing the topic that's being discussed. But whenever you enter another country, there are many challenges involved. First of all, you have to learn the language, you have to learn the customs, you have to learn the rules and regulations, and then you have to kind of like in a way learn all the customs and norms of your native country. I remember one time when I was doing overtime dealing with the migrants over a year ago. There was a single mother who came to the facility, returned to the facility after curfew. So obviously, this person only spoke Spanish. So therefore, I was asked to get involved. One thing I noticed that she had a child. I say no more than 3 years old, out in the middle of the night. Came in from the middle of the night without a coat. Okay, in the middle of winter. Okay, and I remember the temperature was in the low 20s or the high teens. Now, children can get sick very easily being exposed to cold. Now, I know I like to make light of the fact that I love cold and everything like that, but then again, I'm an adult. When you are a child, it's a different thing altogether. So, therefore, I asked the mother, why are you taking your child out in the middle of winter without a coat on? So then she, in turn, responded why I needed to know. My response is, well, first of all, I am a mandated reporter. Second of all, I can report you to children's services. Third of all, children's services get involved. Your child can be removed. Your child can be separated from you and placed in a facility and placed into the foster care system. Okay. Do you really want that happen to your child? Um, I don't remember what was said after that. And unfortunately, some of these individuals have begotten very entitled, demanding the same privileges and rights that U.S. citizens had when they, even despite the fact that they entered the country illegally. Now, I get it. Some of these people are, they state they're trying to escape persecution, um, the political unrest, or economic opportunities. I get it. I have a certain amount of sympathy towards them. Nevertheless, they broke the law. Okay. They didn't go through the legal process. So if they get caught, guess what? They are to be deported and they are to return to their countries of origin. Now, this issue has divided Latinos in many ways. You have Latinos who think massive deportations is cruel and unusual punishment. And of course, we have the situation with agents of ICE going into schools and places of business, detaining people, and even detaining U.S. citizens. Okay. I'm going to say something that it might be considered controversial to some people, but I'm going to explain the reason why. I look at mass deportations as a necessary evil. Okay. And the reason why I stated it is a necessary evil because you have a situation where you have millions of people who enter this country illegally, or people that came in legally but stayed past their visas. Okay. Which means we have to provide resources for these people, places to live, food, and things of that nature. Another issue is that here in New York, under the previous administration, um, we allowed over 100,000 of these people to enter into the shelter system, which was already overcrowded with over 50,000 New Yorkers to begin with. So we put them in hotels, we put them in facilities, we house them, we feed them, and then some of them, through our pilot, actually receive debit cards worth hundreds of dollars for the purpose of buying food. Meanwhile, we have our own people languishing in the shelter system, and we don't extend the same level of assistance to them. I have a huge problem with that. And I remember my mother, God rest her soul, said this: you do not take the food meant for your own children to be given to strangers to allow your children to starve. Okay. Now I've worked the shelters. I work in these facilities. I can tell you the quality of the food is horrible. But the solution is the following: you do something to improve the quality of food. You do not devote millions of dollars to be given as debit cards uh, for the migrants, and then you don't bother to give render the same type of assistance to your own citizens. I have a huge problem with that. So it's just give me a moment. Oops. Okay. So what I'm going to do is share the article. Just give me a moment. Let me just check and see. Okay. No, because I apologize. It's just is I will check in Instagram and see if there's anybody that joined. Okay. And just bear with me because my Wi-Fi is acting a little jinky now. So now I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. Now, the what I'm going to share with you, well, I'm just waiting for it to load. Okay, is something I got from the National Immigration Forum website, and in here defines what is mass deportation. Mass deportation refers to a drastic and sweeping policy aimed at removing the entire undocumented population of the U.S., currently estimated to be 11 million people. Some proponents have also proposed any protections to keep populations with temporary status removed, as well, including temporary protected status (TPS) holders, deferred actions for childhood arrivals, DACA recipients, and various recipients of humanitarian paroles, including those under the CHNV process or have been processed through CB1 at the border. In March 2024, there were more than 860,000 TPS holders, 528,000 DACA recipients, and approximately 1 million parolees in the U.S., or who are eligible for work permits. If implemented, mass deportations could target more than 2 million individuals currently eligible to work legally in the U.S., stripping them of legal status and expelling them from the country. Going far from the current policies prioritizing the identification and removal of those criminal records and or public safety threats, a sweeping large-scale removal operation will require an enormous mobilization of resources and the execution of wide-ranging enforcement actions across the country, including mass raids and spawning detention camps. Local law enforcement agencies will face enormous pressure from federal authorities to carry out traditional immigrant enforcement activities related to identification, arrest, and the removal of millions of individuals, creating a state of fear and uncertainty for many immigrants, both documented and undocumented. The social and economic consequences would be severe. What would mass deportation entail? Mass deportation of undocumented immigrants in the U.S. would entail a severe disruption of life in communities across the country and lead to humanitarian concerns on an unprecedented level. To identify, arrest, and deport the full 11 million undocumented population, potentially others stripped of existing protections, the U.S. government will need to go spend billions of dollars to build detention camps and marshal hundreds of thousands of enforcement agencies and support staff to carry out raids and enforcement actions in the communities across all 50 states. These enforcement actions will be highly visible, separate families, impacting long-standing members of the community, and sow social discord. To execute a mass deportation plan in the interior of the U.S., the current Immigration and Customs Service Enforcement (ICE) operation would be insufficient. ICE will need to considerably expand its workforce, requiring hundreds of millions of dollars to hire thousands of additional agents throughout the U.S. Even much higher staffing levels, ICE would need to be supplemented by additional manpower from all levels of government, including state and local law enforcement, and military forces and National Guards units. Close coordination and cooperation with local state and law enforcement will be crucial for executing deportations on a mass scale. Local law enforcement officials will be compelled to carry out domestic ramp-up immigration enforcement operations, diverting resources and personnel from community threats and crime prevention to instead patrol communities to identify and arrest unauthorized individuals, most of whom posing no threat to public safety. Beyond this, the U.S. military and the National Guard will be deployed to assist in the implementation of mass deportation, intending significant additional costs and channeling resources away from national disaster groups to fund military readiness and other traditional roles filled by armed forces. While local law enforcement agencies, agencies coordinate with federal immigration authorities at various levels, empowering full-fledged immigration tracking by state and local enforcement will lead to many undocumented residents as well as their families and friends to avoid engaging with law enforcement. Crime victims and witnesses will be likely to decline to cooperate with law enforcement investigations to eliminate the risk that any of someone close to them may be identified and deported. This will have far-reaching negative effects on public safety going beyond immigrant communities. Similarly, while there's a precedent for deploying National Guard units in the U.S.-Mexican border to assist with immigration control and in the supporting role, having U.S. military and National Guards units directly carry out the immigration enforcement operations in the U.S. would be unprecedented. The visual presence of troops in communities for immigration enforcement could faultless an atmosphere of occupation, damaging community police relations, and eroding public trust, particularly in immigration communities. In addition, that approach will threaten to set a dangerous precedent for the militarization of domestic law enforcement and its interaction with U.S. citizens. Army promising immigrant aids, including sensitive locations, to locate and arrest entire undocumented populations. ICE, law enforcement, and military personnel will need to conduct widespread raids across houses and apartment buildings, workplaces, and other public locations throughout the country. Enforcement actions could occur in schools, hospitals, and churches currently protected as sensitive zones, with agents possibly conducting checkpoints at this location to request proof of legal status. Agents engaged in such operation likely to rely on racial and ethnic profiling, in many instances potentially insane and even deporting U.S. citizens and other legal residents. Targeting unauthorized immigrants with criminal records, particularly those convicted of felonies or serious offenses, had traditionally been a priority for deportation both under Republican and Democratic administrations. Expanding deportation beyond this group to include long-term residents and those with deep community ties, including people with U.S. citizen spouses and children, almost certainly will face significant challenges and deep public opposition. Most unauthorized immigrants have lived in the U.S. more than a decade, with some having resided in the country for 20 years or more. A large number have U.S. citizen children, own homes, and are well-established members of their neighborhoods, towns, and cities. Thus, mass deportation enforcement will disrupt local communities, businesses, schools, and places of worship, disturbing sacred and safe places. Again, like I said before, going back to my point, you have people who are undocumented living in this country for 10 up to 20 years and have not done anything to try to legalize their status. ICE currently is funding for 41,500 detention beds, a number glaring short of what will be required to house millions of immigrants in remote proceedings. Proponents of mass deportation suggested that the government could build vast holding facilities that will function as staging centers for migrants awaiting trial and removal, and open land in Texas near the border. These facilities, sometimes referred to as camps, are early reminiscent of the internment camps used to detention of Japanese Americans during World War II. Extensive air and ground transportation systems will be required to accomplish mass deportation. Buses and vans will be needed to transport detainees from various holding facilities to airports, requiring significant expansion of ICE's transportation fleet and personnel will cause and logistical challenges to move millions of people into detention camps and will eventually deport them, with greater challenges in deporting countries not bordering the U.S., as well as countries that do not cooperate with the U.S. on deportees. Immigration courts and due process. The legal process inherent to deportation presented a challenge to enacting mass deportations. As underscored by the Supreme Court in 1993, all immigrants who have lived in the U.S. for at least 2 years, even those who entered the U.S. unauthorized, are entitled to due process in deportation proceedings. This constitutional protection asserts that each case must be heard individually in immigration court, creating a substantial logistic hurdle for any large-scale deportation effort. At present, the U.S. immigration court is incredibly overburdened, making it difficult for undocumented immigrants to have cases resolved in a timely and contributing to a large authorized population. Some observers have suggested that accompanied mass deportation, the government will need to triple the size of the immigration court system and build new courthouses, hire support staff, and train judges. Alternatively, a mass deportation act would attempt to circumvent due to process entirely limited to or bypass immigration courts altogether, and some would exclude large scales of immigrants arriving at the border. These efforts could doubtlessly face legal challenges if they fly in the face of constitutional due process. Now, as far as the cost, the deportation of unauthorized immigrants from the U.S. will be an enormous, expensive undertaking for American taxpayers. As of 2024, the average cost to deport a single individual has risen to nearly $14,000, up from $10,770 in 2015. The cost can be high depending on the country of removal, with factors such as commercial flights and scheduling a plane loan. In fiscal year 2023, ICE spent $420 million on transportation deportation just for 142,580 removals. Detention center facilities also incurred significant expenses, with ICE managing 41,500 beds across 200 facilities with an annual cost of $57,378 per bed. Scaling up this operation will remove all estimated 11 million unauthorized immigrants could cost over $150 billion, with an additional $15 billion per year needed to maintain enforcement against new unauthorized entries. These cost estimates do not account for the resources required to deport the millions of other migrants currently protected under programs such as DACA, TIPS, and parole. Thus, the cost of mass deportation is borne by the taxpayer could extend well beyond the immediate cost of the program. Now, the economic consequences are the following. If mass deportation were to be accomplished, the U.S. would have to contend with the loss of tens of millions of unauthorized workers who are essential to critical industries like agriculture, construction, and hospitality. In 2022, the most recent year which statistics are available, unauthorized immigrants comprise approximately 4.8% of the U.S. workforce, about 7.5 million workers, surpassing their 3.3% share of total U.S. population. Particularly for occupation identified as unpopular among native-born workers, unauthorized workers compose of a large share of the workforce and are difficult to replace. The economic impact of mass deportation would be even more severe if the average targeted immigrants with legal work authorization, such as TPS holders, DACA recipients, and parolees. These individuals have been working legally, contributing taxes for years, and can face removal if administration and all the courts take action to terminate their respective work authorization programs. Researchers have concluded that deporting all unauthorized immigrants would reduce the GDP by between 2.6 and 12% over a decade, with a accompanied decline in tax revenues and employment hours. The removal of all authorized workers from the labor market would likely lead to significant labor shortage, which would be difficult to counterbalance and will reduce production and raise consumer prices. These risks are not merely theoretical. History shows that the adverse aftermath of deportation. A 2023 study found that for every 1 million unauthorized immigrants workers have been deported under Secure Communities Program implemented between 2010 and 2015, approximately 88,000 native-born U.S. workers have lost their jobs. These findings suggest that if all undocumented workers are currently deported, nearly a million Americans could lose their jobs. Mass deportations would deliver a severe blow to the economy, reducing economic output and eliminating jobs held by American citizens. In this way, deportation will have a disastrous effect on the economy at large and individual workers. Now, here's the burden and the strain on the communities. Beyond those direct impact by the labor market, mass deportation will affect millions of Americans living in mixed-status households. Those with U.S. citizens and unauthorized family members. While U.S. children are unauthorized immigrants, U.S. citizens are legally protected from deportation. The financial and social costs of raising them will fall on the remaining family members and the broader social safety net. Removing unauthorized residents from the South can reduce median income by 47%, pushing millions into poverty and promptly dramatic negative changes in family dynamics. Mass deportation will have a devastating consequences for families and communities across the U.S., tearing apart the fabric of American society and inflicting profound trauma, especially on children. The broader communities also suffer from the consequences of mass deportation, as stress of potential family separation and enforcement actions. Sensitive location creates a pervasive climate of fear and anxiety and undermines community cohesion and well-being. Just so I can see. Good. I see we have someone. Luz que just joined. Que Dios te bendiga. Bienvenida a este canal. Espero que está bien. Que el Señor siga bendiciendo. Now, this is the conclusion. Mass deportation will have a far-reaching consequence. Carrying out mass deportations that will involve massive and costly expansion, immigrant enforcement forces, disruption of communities, and wide-ranging racial and ethnic profiling. Furthermore, the trauma inflicted on children and the ripple effects on mixed status households would destabilize the communities. The removal of workers from essential sectors would severely damage the economy, leading to labor shortages and reduce economic output and job losses for the American citizens. The broader implication of mass deportation raised serious concerns about its feasibility, legality, and humanitarian impact. It will require unprecedented resources and divert military and law enforcement personnel from all levels of government, undermining military readiness and public safety. It would be also divisive and chaotic, leading to legal challenges, mass opposition, and potential public outbursts. Ultimately, mass deportation is extreme and costly policy that will have lasting negative effects on the nation's security, economy, and society. And we're going to park it here. So, without the fact, look, again, this is an extreme option. This is extreme strategy. But one thing, and this is something we all have to bear in mind, very little has been done to try to fix the problem with the undocumented. Okay. Now, many people advocate having a plan of action where they can legalize their status and eventually become U.S. citizens. My thing is this: it's all well and good if these people actually take these actions necessary to try to legalize their status. But the sad part is we have people who've been living in this country for multiple years and they have not done anything whatsoever to try to legalize their status. And that is the real shame. That is the real crime. Okay? Because each day that you stay here undocumented, there is the risk that you can be arrested by the authorities and be deported. Okay? And again, I'll be a little bit more sympathetic if they didn't have any resources available to help these people with their plight. But there are resources available. You have organizations that are out there that are willing to help these people legalize their status. You have organizations that will provide free legal counsel. Not to mention the other resources that places of worship have. And there's even class in places where you can learn English. While it's true that this country does not have an official language, which is English, English is the unofficial language. And really, if you're going to reside in the United States, where the majority of the people speak some form of English, it's really your responsibility to try to learn. Okay. And don't worry if it doesn't sound perfect. Don't worry that that you're going to mispronounce. I think most people are patient and they're understanding, and they'll at least cut you some slack that you're at least trying to learn English. And I think that's the same thing with everybody else. When you go visit a country and you try to pick up the language and you try to use it, and it becomes a little weird. I think people are generally forgiving, and they'll cut you some slack, and they'll say, "Well, at least this person is trying." Okay, it may not sound perfect, it may be wrong, but at least this person is trying, and there will be more understanding that way. So, with that being said, I have said my piece. The link is there. If anyone wants to hit that link and opine regarding the topic, they can do so. Anyone wants to just wish to enter comment, they can do so as well. If no one enters any comments or no one joins the stream, then I will start to wrap this up. This is not the only time I'll be addressing this. I will be addressing it on other occasions when it's necessary. Because with this current administration, who knows what might happen. But what I find hilarious, that some of the people that were in favor of Trump, who themselves were undocumented, and then they're the victims of deportation, and then they're crying a foul. How could Trump do this? Well, Trump said he would do this last year. And all the things that he's doing, he didn't hide it. He actually said he's going to do these things. So, of course, he's implementing or trying to implement those policies, of which there's been a great deal of legal challenges. due to the lack of constitutionality involved and the fact that he did not go through proper legal processes. But that's how it is. I will be going live tomorrow night on my main channel. Excuse me, just give me a moment. Okay. And let me just share with you uh, what will be my streams for next week. So what I'm going to be talking about is on tomorrow night at 9:30, I believe. I will be discussing salvation, a Christian perspective. So I'm going to discuss with you what does it mean salvation is. Salvation from what? Okay. Also, I will be addressing the myths regarding Christianity. A lot of people, particularly those who are not Christians, have a lot to say regarding what Christianity is. So, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to explain what it is not and what it is. Okay. Now, of course, I'll be using a lot of terminology um, to explain what that is. And of course, I'm going to be quoting scripture. Okay. Now, to my friends out there who do not embrace Christianity, I understand you may have issues with what I'm going to discuss. All I ask that you at least be willing to listen to what I say with an open mind before you make any and you pass any judgment. Okay. In fact, I remember at one stream where I was asked to listen to what was Satanism about. So I said, okay, fine, I'll listen. And someone explained to me what Satanism is about. I didn't criticize it. I didn't speak ill. It was that's something I would never embrace. But at least I was willing to hear what it's about. So I would ask that the same courtesy be given to me as I discussed regarding what is Christianity is and what Christianity is not. And then on Friday, I'm going to have another episode of Open Discussion where I will speak on multiple topics. I'm going to try to go back to having it on Friday. Um, my schedule might be a little bit fluid depending on situations that comes up, or there might be certain streams that I wish to participate, so I may have to tinker with it a little bit. But in any case, you will be informed. So, so to round this up, I'm not crazy about mass deportation. It's something, well, it's an attempt to deal with this crisis. I just wish that we have done something more concrete, that we didn't have to resort to this line of actions. And I hate to say this, but we cannot save the entire world. Okay. And again, each country has a right to govern how they deal with those who enter the country legally and those who try to enter the country illegally, and with actions that they deem appropriate, which is necessary to do. So, with that being said, I thank all of you for your time and attention. Goes to playback and please do your thing, watch it. Hoping you'll like it, and if you want to enter a comment, fine. Just keep it respectable. Okay. So I will close the same way that I've always closed. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of the mentally and intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, will be infected by their stupidity and massive insanity. This has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Hossein Negron saying, take care, have a good day, enjoy the rest of your day, and for those of you who live in New York, be careful because we are expecting snow. Take care and peace.
Be strong.